mrecktv. Peace, world's mrec for mrecktv. We got an interesting clip right here. Russell Simmons reacts to Farrakhan going off on the ADA in defense of Kyrie Irving. Russell Simmons also defends the ADA, saying that the owner is a good friend of his, but also mentions Farrakhan is like a father to him. So is Russell Simmons playing both sides? I'll let y'all decide.
Good morning. It's most of you asleep, but for me it's 5:30 in the afternoon, almost evening. And when you wake up, this message will be here. I wanted to share this today. I know that a bit controversial. It may get me in some trouble, but I can't be canceled, right? There's no one can cancel me. So I can share what's in my heart. I spoke to my mentor today, Minister Farrakhan, one of my second father, I called him many times. I had this beautiful conversation with him about what's going on with Kyrie and Kanye. And, you know, he has such a love for his people and for the community that he's always been very defensive of them and good to them and inspiring to them. So much so that no member of Black Congress or no member of the city councils that are Black, or if we ever have a Black senator, they're all very silent. Even Obama was afraid to denounce the minister because they're friends. So he's been around and people have asked other people to denounce him, and some have had to or lose their job. But anyway, the point is, I don't believe in a million years after watching this man and being semi-raised up from a sillier state to a much better understanding of who I am. I don't believe in a million years he's an anti-Semite. He's a very pro-Black leader who's changed the lives of millions of Black people for the better. But I also had a conversation today with my buddy from the ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt. And Jonathan is also misunderstood because right now he's under attack from some members of the Black community and other members of, you know, he had no intention of canceling anybody. He wanted to counsel people. The 5 things that Kyrie had to do didn't come from the ADL. The really aggressive attacks on Kyrie didn't come from the ADL. So when the NBA takes him off a list, suspension list, and when the Nets give him his job back and if Nike comes back, it was because they kind of took the lead to cancel him and they took the lead to bring him back. But Jonathan Goldblatt always wanted to build a bridge. And I think that our problem is with the ADL, we've perceived them as being the ones who attacked and tried to destroy Kyrie publicly. But that's not what happened because I've been involved in this and watching closely from the beginning. So in defense of the ADL, especially the new regime, Abe Foxman I knew for 30 years, and he's a tough one and had tough methods, which really didn't help curb anti-Semitism. But Jonathan gets that bridge building is the only way. And the reason I'm talking about this is because when I think of, well, one, my second father and how beautiful he is, and 2, when I think of Jonathan Greenblatt, who has every intention of curbing anti-Semitism and hate and racism as he has marched with us in civil rights issues, I think that there's a bridge. And it only can happen with dialogue. And so what I'm saying is that dialogue is critical between all Black leadership and all Jewish leadership to get on the same page, as we have common enemies that need our attention, and we are not each other's enemies. So the anger that the Black community has rightfully, in some way, certainly, rightfully has gained, this anger came towards the ADL for canceling and being so aggressive and asking Kyrie to jump through so many hoops. Those hoops did not come from the ADL. They came from the NBA and from the Nets. And Nike just did what they did. But I think that Kyrie should get all of his toys back and his influence in our community back. And we should counsel him, not cancel him. All of this is about counseling and not canceling people behind the scenes and not in front of the public, where it creates such a negative impact. So I'm just saying that I hope that we can create some kind of dialogue that can help to really get clarity and understanding of the pain that is so deep. When you talk about the rise of anti-Semitism, 6 times what it was only a few years ago, and the hate crimes, I could understand why members of the Jewish community are so upset and worried about this wave of anti-Semitism and what it could lead to, especially with the experiences that they've had in the black community. For them, the burden of white supremacy was never really lifted. It's a little lighter in some places, and some of us are wealthy, but then we still feel a foot on our neck. And so when someone asks us, to jump through hoops, even if we were wrong in some way, we don't like them. Back-breaking tactics in front of our community. So I don't expect Kyrie to have to do any of those 6 or 5 things the NBA put on him. I expect Kyrie to be back in his uniform and working. And I expect him to keep growing and searching for who he is and being more and more inspired and a good community member, as he has been, because he's always been a great philanthropic and spiritual being and given a lot to the black community. And we want him to continue to do so. So the idea of this is to say that I spoke to 2 people who are perceived as enemies, but who want the same thing. We want the upliftment of black people to be the norm, and the partnership with the Jewish community to be equitable and fair. The Jewish community needs the black community, their votes, their numbers, their power. And if there's a bridge, and there's a lot we can do together to fight the hate that's being thrown at us, and also economically, we can build businesses and partnerships that benefit the black community and those who invest in the black community. And I want to see that happen more often than not. My example is not that unique at all. My example of working in film and television and clothing and fashion, I said clothing, okay, and jewelry and financial services with Jewish partners, that example was a good one that set the tone for so many of the artists in the music industry and film and television and clothing and even finance. Those things are, we set the tone. We can do more. We can build up more, and we can work together to fight the hate that's being thrown at us by white supremacists all over this country. And even now, if you watch the voting, we're surprised at the number of people who really, and women, some of them, I think they'd rather keep the privilege than their rights for self-regulation in terms of their abortion rights. And I think we still have a lot of hate in this country that's growing, and we need to combat it and protect ourselves. And that's all I wanted to share. So we have a lot to give and a lot to thank you for that. We have a lot to give. And we have to do it by dialogue and bridge building and partnership and understanding. The education process has to go. Someone was telling me the Jews, and I said, well, what do you mean? They think the Jews are like the Chinese. There's only 14 million maybe. I don't know how many exactly. There's only a few. And they feel threatened. And I want our black community members to kind of understand their pain. But I want them to understand the pain in the black community as well. And so I think that can only happen through dialogue with leadership that is open-minded and looking to really build the bridge that's necessary for us to change the whole country to be a more loving, compassionate, and a more equitable place. That's it. Namaste, yogis. Have a beautiful day. I hope that your day is filled with love and giving and receiving. Thank you.
mrecktv.